I've probably failed more times than most people anyway. So I don't know what I'm hanging on to or what I'm trying to achieve.
Trying to avoid
because I did it. I did blow it lots of times. I've been bankrupt. I have, had my wife get fed up with me for various reasons and decide to take a break. I had one daughter walk out of the house, just right out of the house one time. I don't know that I was responsible for that, but ultimately I'm dad, she's daughter, she left. That was a failure for me. Mm-hmm. There are other struggles that the girls have had that I kind of, I don't know.
I love you. You're an awesome dad. You're awesome.
Why am I here doing this?
I love you. This is the Without Losing Your Cool podcast. We have entrepreneurs, climate changers, entertainers, and survivors turned thrivers on season 2 of Without Losing Your Cool. You do not want to miss a thing. On this episode of Without Losing Your Cool, I want to let you know that some of the topics and the conversations that we'll be having are not suitable for children due to language or the content. It also might not be suitable for you. So I invite you to please go and check the show notes before you listen, because really what you're here for is to listen without losing your cool. Okay, well, today's guest doesn't need any introduction, but this is Yannick.
I'm normally accustomed to some introduction, but hi.
Hi. Thanks for coming back on.
Well, thank you.
You got something
I
on your
didn't
face.
realize it had gone so quickly.
The first season?
So, yeah. Here I am back again. I feel so privileged. I obviously didn't do a horrible job last time I was here.
No, you did an okay job. You did a good job.
Having me back.
You're one of my highest rated shows.
You're lying.
Obviously, I'm not lying. I lie to you on camera with everybody watching. But last year, for season 1, we talked about the obvious stuff. We talked about your career. We talked about what you're afraid of for the career. We talked about parenting. We talked about our relationship a little bit. This year, I'm very excited to say that last season, you were my only male guest.
Right.
This year, it's a shorter season, but I was able to get more male guests on this season. And I did it strategically because what I want this season to have emulated, and I think we've done a great job so far, is I want to talk about overcoming. And we all have demons. And I think that there are people in certain positions that people outside of the circle of their life would never expect that they would have demons, right? Like we romanticize things. We think if you're wealthy, how could you possibly be unhappy? If you're successful in your field, how could you possibly have any demons? Like there's this unrealistic expectation that people who hit a certain level of life are scot-free of suffering, of pain, of consequence, of all the things. So I specifically looked for men in my circle who I know, and I know what they've been up against, and I had them on. And something I have the privilege of knowing, because we've been together for almost 35 years.
Almost.
Is that you've had a really tough life. You've overcome a lot. And I know you're going to go, well, because you're so good at like not looking at your glass half empty. And you're not the kind of person that will look at something negative and hold it or have it become your whole personality. But I think a lot of people, you don't talk about a lot. And because people are so interested in you, the celebrity, like they're so interested in you, the characters that you play, that I found that it's done a huge disservice to you as a human being, of you as a man.
Well, that's interesting. I've grown up, always gravitated toward adults. I always wanted to know their take on things. I always wanted to sort of know what was going on. And so I would just lean into certain conversations. And then I transitioned into show business as a teenager. And that was very much an adult world. So in a sense, I always felt like I was reaching into a different part of my life that I was in. So maybe that gave me the tools, or just flat out created a habit in me to not deal with anything in the present that was unsavory, or whatever the case may be, and just sort of look forward and look to, someday when I'm this, and, just keep plowing forward. I also do think that a lot of things that I've been through, I think this now, a lot of things that I've been through made me better, whether it's, sticking the puppy's nose in shit and learning the hard way, or just having some form of insight, imparted to me by some gracious person along the way. I've always sort of felt like I'm adding sort of a Tetris, and I'm just filling the holes as much as possible and building a solid foundation and trying to sort of stay ahead.
I know you, so I know that is something that you totally do. Like, I wouldn't say you don't deal, but it's fascinating to watch. Is it compartmentalizing, or is it like you're like an literal architect of your life? Like, you have this great ability, and I don't know how well it serves you, but you have this great ability to stand back and do exactly that. Just be like, oh, I'm going to put this here for now, and then I'm going to put that over there, and then I'm going to, and not deal. And do you think, like, I'm trying to figure out, what do you think came first? Like, why are you a builder bear? Like, why do you put things away and look at it from the outside? And would you say that it's something that you adopted as a survival tool? And if yes, for what? Survival from what?
Probably failure, embarrassment, looking bad. In reality, I mean, I've kind of done a massive overcompensation and put myself into showbiz and done a lot of things to really look good on the outside. Gives me a decent cushion. So if there's any failures along the way, well, they're a little more obscured by
failures of what, though?
I think the biggest one is financial. That's really the biggest one.
Really?
And then second would be, but they're tied together. So relationship failure means automatic financial ruin too. For some reason,
without a prenup, someone's getting 50.
So, somewhere in there, that's all tied in together. But I think failing your kids, you would be, all of those are tied together for me. And so I've always just hung on real tight to make sure that shit is locked down. And sometimes it's created a lot of frustration for me, but I guess the alternative is not very good. So I just keep kind of pounding ahead and
the alternative being what?
Well, the actual failure, I don't even know I've probably failed more times than most people anyway. So I don't know what I'm hanging on to, or what I'm trying to achieve.
Trying to avoid,
because I did it. I did blow it lots of times. So I actually don't know. I've been bankrupt. I have, had my wife get fed up with me for various reasons and decide to take a break. I had one daughter walk out of the house, just right out of the house one time. I don't know that I was responsible for that, but ultimately I'm dad, she's daughter, she left. That was a failure for me. There are other struggles that the girls have had that I kind of, I don't know.
I love you. You're an awesome dad. You're
Why
awesome.
am I here doing this?
I love you. You're awesome, dad. You're an awesome dad, and nobody will ever. I mean, it's like I told you, and I've said it to you a million times in the almost 35 years that we've been together. It's like, if everything else I've ever done could possibly be considered like wrong, like we talked about this yesterday. I was talking about, financially, how I feel like I've put us in fucked up situations financially, with things that I thought were going to be great, you know, and they ended up costing us so much money, from the church to like, you name it. I would say that the greatest thing I ever did was picking you. You know, I didn't have a good example of what a father should be like, or what a man should be like, what the head of a house should be like. And it's like, at 18, I picked you, and we were just a couple scraggly kids. I mean, we were scraggly kids.
Yeah, definitely.
But, you know, something about us was meant to be.
Well, I knew you were a very special person, and all of the things that you mentioned all along the way, I always held your opinion in high regard. So, you know, the things that we ventured into, we did with the, you know, I'd say a pure heart and the right intentions, and always trying to do the right thing. I mean, nobody wanders into a church that, you know, takes up a massive amount of your time, you know, whether it's evangelizing or teaching other people and doing all that, and your Bible studies, and then your money, and nobody ventures into that for the wrong reasons.
Nah, fair. The leaders might have the wrong reasons.
They could become the wrong reasons once you're there. I mean, you know, I have to assume that there was some great people along the way, and
well, for sure. And you were always good
a lot. I feel like I learned a lot. I learned a lot from some of the, you know, well, Bible teachings and people, you know, being able to sort of cherry pick what was good and make something good of it.
Well, I was talking to one of my earlier guests on the season, Kathleen, who's my coach, my manifestation coach, and, you know, I was saying to her that how never in my life did I know about access of emotion and healing. It wasn't something that ever was talked about in my family. Of course, you know, my mom's famous for saying, I wasn't raised, I was beat up. You know, I wasn't raised up, I was beat up. You know, there was no space for any conversation. So, you know, my life with her was considerably better because she took what she had and she was like, well, no. And she did with that what she could. And obviously there was growth and there was change. But it wasn't until I met you that I became aware that there was anywhere to go and heal or let go. And, you know, I credit you with opening my eyes to that. Like, I feel like, you know, I don't want to be all corny and stuff, but like that my relationship with you saved me, even though we were young punk ass kids. And, you know, we stood up in that room full of strangers and we said stuff to each other that was like, maybe the question should be, are you ready to receive?
Yeah, that's first? Right.
You know what I mean? Like, there was stuff dumped that, you know, we then later had to.
So you're talking about Est and the forum and stuff like that, which had its merits. But yeah, you know, so what was good for me in that moment that you're referring to was like, hey, I really want to sort of clear myself of this or you know, get this out of the space, man.
That was only your space. I didn't even know it was taking up any space.
It was good for me, but not so good for you in front of a very large room of people to sort of hear.
But being in a relationship with you, it's always, I found something that I'm grateful for is your ability to look at a really terrible situation and find the good in it. Like, you have this incredible ability to flip something on its head and immediately see the silver lining, which has been great for me because, you know, I was the kind of person just through my past experience in my childhood that it was, you know, and it's funny, I had Roz Weston on the show, and it's the first human being who has outwardly admitted that he was always fucking mad when other people were succeeding, even if it was somebody who got a promotion at a bank and he didn't even give a shit about being a banker. He was like, why? And that, you know me, you've been with me forever. I think it's just recently, maybe the last 6 months or year, where I've been able to just look at her having that thing. Good for her. But, you know, I was always like, why her and not me? You're like, but she's a vet, or she's a vet. Like, why do you care? You know?
Yeah. It's funny. I've always sort of, I mean, here I am in showbiz, and you are constantly being faced with everyone else's success.
Yeah.
You don't sort of grow as a performer without watching other performers who are doing really cool stuff that you'd love to do also. But I would sort of compartmentalize that and somehow carry on. So, you would see, God, I don't know, Brad Pitt at an award show. I was like, okay, you know what? That I'm not going to sit for.
Yeah,
I'm
you
not
hate
interested. I know this now as an adult and somebody who's been involved in that world and been nominated and won for different things, which is wonderful. But I also know that there's more to it than just, it's not
cut and dry.
It's not cut and dried. And it's also, it's not 100%. Where's the objectivity? It's all sort of, I don't know, that guy looks like my cousin. I think he should win. I don't even know.
Or way back in the day, I wanted that show and he got that part.
Yeah. And so I've learned how much of the joy that I get out of my job is not that stuff.
Do you get joy out of your job?
Yeah, I do. It's tough because I've been doing the same job for a very long time. And then even more specifically now, I've been doing the same one show for a very long time, the same character. So I do have to sort of talk myself. I have to sort of talk the situation up a little bit to myself some days. Because, everybody wants to feel some growth. And when you're looking at something 15 years, 16 years, it's a really long time. I've not, aside from having the kids and I've not done anything 15 years in my life. And I've certainly not portrayed myself in any one way for that long.
Do you know you've been mountain biking longer than that?
I just learned that now.
Yep. Because we were at Woody Crest when you started mountain biking again.
Okay, so what I was trying to say is that
I'm keeping track of this mountain biking.
When it's your job and you feel like kind of it's the same, a little bit of Groundhog Day, to be honest.
Yeah.
So there's a little bit of Groundhog Day feeling, and that part's a little tough. But there's new guests all the time. There's new scripts all the time, and then new adventures. So I managed to sort of talk myself into the next episode, and then we go away and regroup, and we have a vacation, some time off, and then we start talking about the following season, and you romanticize, and it's like, yeah, of course I want to do it again. It's I love it. It's a big part of me,
right?
And so
you have like a family over there now.
I have a family. There are people there that I've been working with the entire time. They're still there. The fans, they're I've made friends with some, so it's a big part of my life and will be forever. So yes, I absolutely do have days that I just can't believe I'm the luckiest guy in the world. I'm the luckiest actor in the world. I'm the luckiest husband, luckiest dad. It's jackpot everywhere in my life.
But you can't really feel like that all the time.
I don't feel like that all the time. No, hell no.
Yeah.
That somebody would call me a liar right here, right now.
So when you're in that headspace of like, here I am, putting the suit back on, and I'm just saying the suit because it's 16 years of it. Is there ever, do you struggle with like, not necessarily feeling ungrateful, but do you feel handcuffed a little bit? Like, is there, I don't want to say wish there was more, but because you're creative. When you're an actor, the reason you're an actor is because you're creative.
Yeah. I mean, it's given me opportunity to direct. I've, whether I liked it or not, I became a producer on the show just by function of, I took it on.
Knowing the show.
I know the show. I know the period. I know what works. I know what resonates with the fans. I know, through our distribution network, what's wanted, what's needed. I know how each episode starts, what the fans expect, what, after the end of the first act, where we should be roughly at the beginning of the second act. And it's a formula that works. There's a reason why that rhythm of whodunit, the different sort of tenets of formatted shows, why they work.
Yeah.
So I am sort of the gatekeeper a little bit as people come through. I've taken that on. So, like it or not, Jan, you're a producer. And then also, after so many years, my salary sort of outgrew. There's nowhere to go without negatively impacting the budget. So part of, the what's attractive to keep staying with it and being involved
It's
year
having
over
that
year
creative, not control, but input.
is being valued in that respect is a big part of it. So being able to direct is great. I've learned to hone that craft. So that, I'm very lucky there. I
Your
can take that
dad's lived
elsewhere.
all over the world. And I know you always get a kick out of when he emails you. And
Yeah, that was funny. So I think we were season 10. And I got an email from my dad, and I think he was in Malaysia or Thailand. I'm not sure. He was far. And he was like, "Hey, I caught your show, the murder show. You're pretty good." It's like, thanks, Dad. It's 10 years in, and it was his first time seeing it. So it was a good laugh. I couldn't do anything but laugh at that. That was funny.
Was it funny?
Yeah, well, I mean, just there's a little tiny bit of it that's like I would hope I had a little bit more of a finger on the pulse of my kids if they'd been up to something for 10 years. But out of sight, out of mind. He's gone far and wide all around the world, and I just learned to accept that it's just the way it is.
Do you feel that it made you a different dad, having a dad who was far and wide around the world?
A little bit, yeah. One of the things that I noticed about that was that the onus really is on me. The onus is on the parent to make themselves available and to seek out their kids and to build that relationship, because they're busy building their life and all of the other aspects of their life that you want them to develop. And so I think you got to make yourself available a little too much till they tell you to get the fuck out, like
that's too much.
Yeah, too much. Even my dog doesn't like you. Get out. No, I'm kidding.
That's not true, actually. He keeps looking over there because our girls are actually in studio right now. So that being said,
so one of the things that I wanted to sort of get to with that was that the only regret or the only misgiving of the entire thing is we shoot summer in, summer out, always have.
Right. All
so
do.
Ontario, Canada is a pretty freaking awesome place in the summer. And I sort of have not had a summer for 15 years.
16.
Well, it sounds nice and around 15. It's forever optimistic. So I've traded that out. I've traded that out for what I've gotten back, which is obviously great. If I put everything into context, what I've gotten has been fantastic. Well, I haven't been roofing in the summer, so. Well, because I say that because I've done it.
Yeah. I'm building houses, framing houses, which is what he would do between acting.
Yeah.
Which I think why somewhere inside of me there was that push to get the place in California, because I knew how much you were giving up, and you're an outdoorsy person. Even as a kid, you'd go in the forest and get lost with your GI Joe. Like,
I went to that neighborhood just last month.
How'd that feel?
It was really neat to go back to that neighborhood in south of Montreal, and I can't believe that from like 5 till 7 years of age, I used to wander up into this mountain that had lakes and cliffs and
A 5?
pit. Yeah, 5 and 7. Like, and come
Alone?
home alone with friends or alone or whatever, and come home. And I remember one time I came home and I somehow got tar all over me, and my dad whooped my ass. But it's like,
Did whoop your ass for being on the mountain at 5, but
right?
whooped
So
your
it
ass
was
for
a different
okay.
different time. You just come home when
The lights came on.
lights came on or something. And I was with my buddy Mark, and I was like, can you believe all of that up there? I used to wander up into there every day. I never did any homework. I never did, I was always in trouble in class and never handed assignments in on time. But, what an incredible memory. So, yes, I did. I very much value that connection with nature and being outside and so on. So when I'm cooped up in a studio, I just, it's really not natural for me.
No.
I pardon the pun.
No, I know you struggle with that a lot, which is why now the cottage comes in handy.
Yeah. And when we were spending time in California, absolutely, it would be a great respite. Like, it would become winter here. We'd wrap up, get on a plane or on RV or whatever, and just head down there and try to kill two birds with one stone and try to forward my career and also be able to just take advantage of being outside all the time. And one of the things that came out of that, which was interesting, and I don't discount the value of being in Los Angeles and so on, but I also don't want to discount the value of being a successful artist in Canada. It has been my calling card for a while and kept me in business. So it's interesting the way the world, the universe works. It's like you keep getting. I mean, how many times were we living down there, and I got another show here?
I know.
It was anyway. Little side note there, observation.
Without losing your cool, we've got your gift giving needs covered. Whether it's a holiday gift, if it's a support gift, if it's a little extra love that somebody in your life needs gift, or a parent who needs a little more guidance, advice, and the knowing that they are not alone out there in their parenting journey, we have got you covered. If you know somebody who is deepening their relationship to self, grab them the Self-Love Bundle. It includes the Loving Yourself Without Losing Your Cool book, Loving Yourself journal that accompanies the book, and love notes for adults. If you have somebody in your life who's expecting or has a little from 0 to 10, then the Raising Kids Bundle is the perfect gift set for them. It comes with the Raising Your Kids Without Losing Your Cool and love notes for littles. If you have a parent in your inner circle who is heading into tween and teendom, boy, have we got the gift set for you. Parenting your teens without losing your cool comes with love notes for tweens or teens. You get to choose. All of this is available for you at chantelbisson.com. If you're shopping chantelbisson.com for the very first time, don't forget to add yourself to the newsletter to claim your shopping discount code. Go now. So, I mean, we're parents, and I have to go back to this 5 to 7, wandering a mountain.
Yeah.
No cell phone, obviously.
No.
Obviously it brought you incredible joy, and it was healing and necessary and transformative and made you essentially who you are.
Well, it set a baseline, I think.
But, like...
It's weird. I would never, ever have let a 5 or 7-year-old kid wander out of sight into the woods. I don't know. It was just a different time.
Are you sure you were 5 to 7?
Yeah. I did the math, and that's when I lived there. After that, I moved to Florida. Did the same thing down there in water. It was okay. I don't know. But
does that feel like freedom to you as a parent? Does that feel like freedom to you? I mean, I don't want to put words in your mouth, or does that feel a little bit irresponsible? Like, because obviously our childhoods, they shape us, right? And they make us feel a certain kind of way, and they create in us the desire to be different than how we were raised, obviously.
Or
Or
there are positives.
yeah, for sure.
Uh, yeah, I think. I mean,
but how do you feel like that maybe landed in your?
I had no point of reference. I mean, I didn't feel like, oh, hey, nobody cares what I'm up to. I didn't feel that way. I didn't feel.
Probably just felt free.
Yeah, it was a baseline. It was normal. I didn't ever feel. I thought it was kind of cool of my parents. I do remember a lot growing up trying to hang out with certain kids and whatever, and their parents were really, really in there with them. And I sort of felt like that was not normal. It was either oppressive or they were fearful or overprotective. And I just thought, how strange is that must be for you.
So what did you think of me as a parent?
What did I think of you as a parent?
Yeah, watching me with our girls.
I think we moved around a fair bit as young parents, and we had girls, and you kind of opened my eyes to some of the things that can happen to young girls. And so I had a different take on how far they could be out of sight than what I would measure myself with.
Right.
So I feel like I learned. I think it was important to pay close attention to
yeah
young girls.
If you could go back and change something in your childhood, what do you think you'd change? Good or bad?
You know what? I don't know. You got me. I'm at a loss there. I think. I don't know. I mean, I moved around. I ended up, I was standing on the beach when Castro opened all the jails and let people leave Cuba. People were making land all over the place. It was wild.
Well, in context, you were in Florida, right?
I was in Florida. I was in the Keys. So if you remember the movie Scarface, the beginning of the movie Scarface, I was there when that happened.
Wow.
So I was a French Canadian kid, was now going to an English school. There was this weird atmosphere of the Florida Keys. And then all of a sudden, it's Cuban people all over the place, and there's all this sort of stuff happening. Then I moved further north in Florida, and we went into sort of a busing system in Tampa Bay. And so we were, the white suburban kids and the inner city black kids, we were all sort of thrown together, which I think was great. I actually had really close friends during that time, and
from a totally different world.
And my friend Richard Gonzalez was Hispanic black kid, so that was neat. Then I moved to Texas, and then it was like the kids who were, from agricultural families, and then there was sort of Hispanic. My next door neighbor was Mexican, and so I got introduced to all that. And then I don't know, I ended up in Toronto, in the north end of Toronto, and went to a school, and most of the kids were Jewish. I had no idea. It was like, so I kind of look at all those experience, and I was always the outsider. So I feel like it made me in the end, probably a better person, because I looked at everybody the
just being human.
Everybody was on equal footing. Everything was face value for me because I was always the one moving around. So I had to adapt. I had to mind my P's and Q's. I had to fit in. Mm-hmm. There was never any point where it was like those people. So I think my childhood served me well. And I'm very lucky that I ended up in a job where I could use all those adaptation things, skills and collaborating with any rainbow of type of person, and sort of welcome them on equal footing and just, here we go.
Mm-hmm. Be collaborative rather than competitors, for sure.
Yeah, and that's how I view other actors. I've never ever felt like, oh, that guy, there's no two people alike. So I've never felt like I had competition. And then when I became a director and started having to audition performers, that even was even more crystallized, because it was like, all these people are good. Mm-hmm. They're just,
that person is the character.
That person fits and that person doesn't. There's no like, oh man, there's 3 people.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, it's a popularity contest or I don't know what, or let's have a look at their resume to see if one edges the other one out. It's like, no, they're right. I have confidence in them. I have confidence in me, giving them the tools that they're going to need to do a great job. And here we go. And that took a whole other degree of pressure off of me as a performer. I was like, right.
Really?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I could walk into any audition anywhere. Sure. I'll be nervous. I mean, if I go and audition for,
Guillermo del Toro.
Guillermo del Toro, I'll be a little nervous, but no, I've met him, so maybe not.
You talked to him about your favorite thing on Taverna Tony restaurant.
Yeah, menu. That's right. Favorite thing on the menu at Taverna Tony in Malibu.
Yeah.
But in the end, there'll be a huge part of that fear or angst or that's gone, because I've already done my job. Mm-hmm. I already have proven myself to X amount of people to get in the room.
Right.
And I'm either right for that part or I'm not.
Yeah, I didn't have that as an actor. I was tormented every time I went into an audition. Why not me?
No.
Me?
I did that in my whole life. Out.
I know. As you walked out.
As I walked out, I would take the pages and I always did it. I would throw them out. And in doing that, I threw the entire thing out of my mind. Yeah. And if it came to be, then so be it. I'll give it some attention, some focus or whatever. But other than that, it's gone. It's gone.
But don't you think that's a little creepy?
It's a little creepy, but there was also...
Like, you could just be like, I really want this thing. I'm going to put all this energy in. I'm going to do my best. I'm going to give it my all. Fuck it. It's a little... Well, it's a little like...
Well, yeah.
I had to do that to me. The wall came down. So, but that's a survival skill.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't want to think about it. I don't want to disappoint.
Giving it energy no longer serves me from this moment on.
It's either a survival skill or it's really fucking evolved. I can't decide.
Well, I did get some strange looks from other actors and sort of, when you're younger and more immature, it's like, yeah, that's right.
I don't care. But fuck you. You're going to go home. You're going to probably recite it in the mirror before you go to sleep. You're going to think about it in the morning. Not me, man. Not me, bro. I'm done.
No, that's right.
But can you see what I'm saying? I might have
thought things like that.
I think you thought, because whenever there were big ones, I would bring it up.
You always would
bring it up. I always brought it up because I was like, have you heard?
Have you heard? Have you followed up? Have you asked?
Have you asked?
Did you get any feedback? Fuck no. I don't care. I will if I will. If I won't, I won't.
But I still find that so weird. All these years later, I still find... And like I said, honestly, and anybody watching, I mean, not as a judgment, but like, is it is it the greatest ability of detachment? Like, because detaching from a result of what you want is hugely powerful in manifestation and in bringing something to you. It's the attachment that can sometimes create, you bring in all the other energies of like, well, how will I feel if it don't? And then you start to focus on the flip side of not getting. So many will say that detaching from the outcome is where you allow for it to come in.
I think so. I mean, I can pretend some days and act like I'm all that evolved and everything, but I also feel like that doesn't serve me. And
Why, like, feel like you could go down the hole and just stay in the hole?
no, I feel like what emotions or feelings or thoughts that doing that would bring up is not what I want. I would rather fill those spaces with something else. So I move on.
Is that avoidance?
That's what I mean. Like I could say it's because I'm so highly evolved, but I think no. I think it's just a sidestep of something I'm not willing to. Um, it's not poop I want in my punch bowl.
Nobody wants poop in their punch bowl.
Right. So I don't call it selfish. I don't know. And then part of it is also there'd be times in a given season where you're reading for a lot of shows at a time.
Yeah.
And you do have to just systematically just clear your mind. You can do 3 in a day.
Mm-hmm.
I've had to do that, which is really, that can really get to you. And I think when you don't put too much want or whatever juju you put on something, when it comes back to you, sometimes I think it's more satisfying. Maybe, I don't know. And maybe it is a coping mechanism. I think, there are things that did happen to me when I was little, that created some anxiety from separation or those things. So maybe I created coping mechanisms of detachment. Not long ago, I did find out that there are areas of my life that I've completely blocked out, that I don't have any recollection of. Then this came up in a conversation with my father and my sister. We were talking about our time here or there, and there are chunks that I have completely blocked out.
Were they trauma chunks?
No, I don't think so. They were just periods that were not comfortable, that I probably just wished away or discounted or put out of my mind because I'd become fairly efficient at doing that. And I think I may have overdone it in some instances.
Well, that's a trauma response, right?
Well, that's what I've learned.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Have you looked into healing that or undoing it? That mechanism?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, just sort of being confronted with it is still somewhat recent. So what do I do about it? I don't know. I've been a little bit more focused on some broader aspects. So I haven't sort of gotten into that granular stuff.
No?
Not recently, no. I think I'm still in a stage where I'm sort of moving forward and being proactive and trying to squeeze in a bunch of career stuff and also, personal goal stuff and achievement stuff. So maybe I'm not there yet right now. I'm more like moving forward and trying to achieve and set my family up. So,
well, you've done a great job with taking care of your family.
Thank you.
But I wonder if you maybe, and not you, I mean you, collective you, us as human beings, if we don't maybe move forward in bigger leaps and bounds by not pushing and not not addressing
stuffing stuff down. Yeah, absolutely.
And you're the one who actually taught me that about stuffing. That was your term. I had never heard that term until you brought it up about stuffing.
Interesting.
Right?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, no doubt there's merit in, addressing what blockages or what, because I think the old sort of adage of what you resist persists. So I think that's definitely true. So there may be some merit in sort of at least being open to.
But do you feel like you're a tortured soul, or do you think I just poke you like I poke a bear? Do you feel like
I can be very happy very easily. I can
Yeah.
be content easily to a fault, where I can just cozy my little world up and do my little routine and what makes me happy day in and day out. Next thing you know, 6 months have gone by and other people around me are not happy. So that's my default, is I can be very happy and content.
Insular.
Yeah. And also I can, I don't get down too far. Like my down meter goes off pretty early, and I make myself happy. So with you and I, one of the things that's been a huge plus is that you kind of shake me out of that and remind me that there's things that I need to be proactive about. There's areas in my life where there are some things missing. There's areas where I could grow, and so that's been good. Then there's also sometimes where it's like, don't poke the bear right now. You just need to calm down and give me some space.
And then I sometimes I still poke the bear.
Yeah, but you've learned now.
I know. I know.
That,
I've gotten better. It's only taken almost 35 years to learn. Okay, so there's something I'm doing this season because, and I don't know if I've said this all the season, but I love Diary of a CEO podcast. He's awesome. His podcast is amazing. And something he does that I've emulated is he gets his current guest to leave a piece of advice for a future guest. And neither guest knows who it's going to or where it's coming from.
Is that right?
Isn't it fun?
Oh.
So I love it so much. So I've been doing that this season. And then I've also been doing this because I find this fascinating. And I know I think you've probably been asked this before. But if you could spend time with any one person, dinner, mountain bike, go on a ride, whatever you would love to do with any one person, dead or alive, who would you?
Jeez, I could be shallow and unimaginative and say Steve Jobs, but man, that guy changed a lot of lives.
Yeah, but I don't know. I have a lot of thoughts.
Yeah. No, that would be too easy. I always liked the people that took on the establishment,
Mm-hmm.
People who did things differently, who thought differently, who had a different take on it that was often better. And then I like them even more if it didn't work out.
Really?
Because that means they went to the last dollar because they believed what they were doing. One of those people was Tucker, who took on the big three in Detroit and built the Tucker cars. And he
lost everything.
He lost everything, but everything he did was better. He thought differently. He was passionate. Was an interesting guy. I would like to actually know more, but that's the type of person. Yeah.
Okay, and I'm going to read you a piece of advice that came from a previous guest. And it says, never forget how to play. And if you have, find someone to play with. Play every day.
That's excellent. And I feel like that one should skip me because I'm good on that one.
Yeah, but you know what? I find is fascinating? The universe, it's interesting because I know that sometimes you struggle with maybe you play too much. And I know a lot of that comes from me because I'm like, babe, I just need you to just be present a little bit more. We need to get through, so I know I put a lot of that on you. But I think that it's fascinating that the universe is based, every message that I've read to each guest, I'm like, that actually fits that person.
Really?
Yeah. And this fits you because I know because of me, there is a little bit of that, like, ooh, because I look at when you go off and play, like that's time I don't have with you. So it's selfish, right? Obviously, whenever we get upset about something, it's rooted in selfish wants. But I think that fits because I think that sometimes you feel guilty about playing. And this is the universe telling you, no, man, you got to play. It's good for you. It's almost like, not permission, but letting you know that you're on the right path.
Okay.
So, was it different than your first season interview? This interview?
It was very different, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think getting the sort of, here's the stuff I know everyone will want to know about it. No, I'm kidding. I think, getting to some more personal stuff is great. I'm always hesitant to do that. The interview process, the whole interview thing, I learned, I got burned a few times when I was young. Columnists and different people said some offhanded things, or they took a quote of something I said and recontextualized it, and I felt burned, and I felt embarrassed, and I felt taken advantage of. And so I'm always very, very.
It's robotic, and it's a damn shame that journalists, if you're a journalist and you're watching this, don't do that to an artist. Don't do that to somebody you're interviewing, because what you do is you rob them of authenticity, and therefore you rob your readers of authenticity. So I think journalists shouldn't write from their objective. They should write from a space of giving information, sharing information, rather than trying to paint somebody with the brush that they see them with. You know what I'm saying? It's a huge disservice.
Yeah.
They rob everybody. And a lot of ego. Put your ego aside. But thanks. Thanks for coming back.
Thanks for having me.
It's been 34 and a half years.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate that you value me being on your show, because you could get a lot of neat people on second season now.
I know. I had to bump a couple people to season 3 to squeeze you in, but
oh my,
that's how much I like you. Thanks, baby. I love you.
I love you. Great job.
Thanks. I'm so grateful you joined in on this conversation. Subscribe where you're listening, leave a comment, connect with us on social media for more, and all the links, you can find them in the show notes. We will see you at the next one.